Omni-Man floated next to the circle, his feet hovering just off the ground. He was staring at death itself, better known to the highest echelons of the SCP Foundation as O513. It wasn't the robed Grim Reaper of Old English legend. Instead, it was a fog of ghostly faces melting into and out of each other. The room was littered with the lifeless bodies of guards and mobile task force agents. They had been no match for the unstoppable force of the Viltrumite, who had only one goal in mind: to topple the SCP Foundation. One of the most powerful organizations on Earth was defeated. The path would be clear for the Viltrumite takeover of Earth. He'd already faced off against a vast number of standard Foundation goons with advanced weaponry. Now he was ready to dispense with the game. He would strike directly at the heart of the Foundation's power, the enigmatic O5 Council. One by one, he would hunt down and eliminate the incredibly powerful and highly secretive ruling body of the entire organization. And Omni Man was just starting from 13 and working backwards all the way to number 1. And 13 just so happened to be the force of death itself, trapped inside an arcane circle in an off-the-books facility in New Mexico. Even a figure as powerful and dangerous as Omni-Man could see the novelty in getting to encounter the personification of death itself firsthand. "You're about to taste freedom. Hope you're grateful," he said. Death whispered, "I hope you get to taste it one day too." "I'm in control of my own actions." "Yes, as far as you know." With a single punch, Omni-Man destroyed the ritual ground setup that kept the entity bound. It dissipated like smoke and vanished entirely. 1 down, 12 to go. He used Viltrumite technology to extract information from the databanks at the site. Surprisingly, it wasn't hard to find the clues that would lead him to his next target. How foolish. Perhaps they never expected people to make it all this way, so their encryptions were weaker here. Either way, it would be a fatal mistake for them all. The next mission led him to Europe, a quick hour-long flight. F-31 jets tried to keep pace with him, subjecting him to a barrage of missiles and machine gun fire, most of which he easily ducked and weaved around. Eventually, he dropped back and destroyed his pursuers. He soon arrived at his destination, a secure facility hidden in the business district of Lausanne, where O512, the accountant, was waiting. He wasn't exactly what Omni-Man expected. A floating brain in a huge jar, connected to a series of supercomputers with a large spiderweb of wires. The body of this man had died long ago, but the Council wanted to preserve his genius mathematical mind for future generations. He was the heart of the Foundation's finances, running every calculation and account through the gray matter of his brilliant but disembodied mind. And now another thing was about to go through his mind: Omni-Man's fist. Soon, weapon drones swarmed the room. Some were mounted with submachine and laser guns, and others packed with explosives, and they all scrambled towards Omni-Man. As each one collided with him or opened fire, the bullets and shrapnel simply bounced off of his freakishly durable skin. It didn't take long for Omni-Man and O512 to be in the room. "They should have let you die long ago," Omni-Man said. He drove his fist through the plexiglass jar with little effort, splattering the brain within and sending the preservative fluid cascading over the edge of the plinth. 2 down, 11 to go. He cornered O511, the father of lies, at a secret facility embedded deep in a mountain in Siberia. He needed to kill hundreds of heavily armed troops to get to the man. But in the end, he was every bit a fleshy, vulnerable human being as everyone else. The fact that he was a snappy dresser certainly wouldn't save him. Soon, Omni-Man was holding him over the edge of a sheer cliff, with nothing but unforgiving icy rocks below. He'd read in the file that he stole from the O513 facility that 11 was the one in command of signing off on all the D-class terminations. It probably didn't feel so good to have someone else managing his own termination. With a private smirk, Omni-Man threw him over the edge. 11 screamed all the way down, until a brutal crunch silenced him. Only 10 to go. Omni-Man was lucky to find the next one, O510, the Archivist, a woman who often secreted herself away in the Wanderer's library. He never would have been able to find one of the ways into the library had it not been for instructions left in the same data he'd pilfered earlier. And this time, he was in for slightly more of a fight. In the endless twisting corridors of the library, the Archivist battled OmniMan with all the magical abilities she'd gained from the many arcane tomes of this timeless place. She threw fireballs and unleashed powerful blasts of electricity that sparked up along his Viltrumite body. They caused pain, but never seemed to actually cause damage. Pretty soon, OmniMan decided to end it. He swooped in and murdered the Archivist with a single decisive strike, spraying her blood across the books. Only 9 left to kill now, and the Foundation would fall, and Viltrum would add Earth to its vast empire. In a high-rise in the center of New York City, OmniMan faced off against Donna Wedu Taylor, 059, an acclaimed geologist who was recruited into the council from the public sector. Being a non-anomalous human being, she had no hope of surviving against OmniMan. When he smashed in through the window, she pulled an MP5K from underneath her desk and peppered the room with a hail of bullets. Not long after, she was dead, and OmniMan had more blood on his gloves. 058 was already taken care of by the time OmniMan arrived. It turned out he'd been assassinated by the other members of the council years ago after his actions resulted in a deadly SCP-682 containment breach. He wasn't frustrated by this news. OmniMan still had plenty of people to kill today. With 058 already dead, OmniMan immediately made his way to a compound in Kandahar where 057 was testing new anomalous weapons. OmniMan became an unwilling test subject for one of these weapons, and when he was hit in the chest with a projectile from an experimental railgun, he would be ashamed to admit it did knock the breath out of him, but only for a moment. 7 was down below watching. A South Asian woman in her mid-40s in a neat business suit, surrounded by elite tactical warriors with laser weaponry. Perfect. He'd make this one nice and quick. OmniMan swooped down like a bird of prey, simply tanking the volley of laser blasts that glanced off his invincible body. He hit the ground like a missile, causing a shockwave that killed not only 7, but all the operatives around her. That was yet another member of the most powerful people in the world committed to the grave. Just 6 more to go now, and the mission would be done. He didn't expect the mission to take him to a vast ranch in West Texas, where the next member of the 05 Council liked to waste his days. He was Rufus King, 056, also known as the American. He earned that name, dressing like a classic cowboy, complete with a bolo tie, 10-gallon hat, and some big ol' boots. When OmniMan flew in, Rufus pulled out a pair of anomalous 6-guns out of holsters at his hips, firing perfectly aimed magnum rounds at the homicidal ex-hero. Shockingly, OmniMan felt the impact of every single round as it hit his body, pounding into his muscles and seeming to zap his strength. You think any of your alien bull honky can beat anomalous American ingenuity, Viltrumite? Rufus barked with a distinctive Texas twang. I'm gonna break you like a rambunctious bronco, you little snot. OmniMan hated to acknowledge it, but this terrible Texan had him on the ropes. Anytime he tried to get close, he got a face full of anomalous lead. At one point, OmniMan spun out and smashed into the ground. The American started advancing towards him, uncoiling his favorite anomalous bullwhip. Was he about to hogtie a superhuman? But OmniMan reached into the dirt and grabbed a small stone. He threw it at the American's head, piercing his skull and killing him instantly. Another one bites the Texas dust. 055 and 054 were having an emergency meeting in Australia in the back of a moving armored vehicle, trying to formulate a plan on how they could counter the threat who was currently tearing through their numbers. They all came upon a nasty shock when the vehicle they were in was lifted up into the sky and then tossed down at the ground at incredible speeds. Everyone on the inside, both council members and their guards, quickly took on the consistency of chunky soup. Only 3 left to kill. 053 was an AI, easily deleted once his databanks in Berlin were destroyed, cutting off the remaining members of the council from each other. It was astonishing how many members of the council weren't even human, but they all fell or disappeared just the same. The penultimate peril was 052, a woman in a hat and shawl that covered most of her face, accompanied by a strange and elderly assistant. They presented no resistance as OmniMan floated down in front of them. "You're showing no fear," OmniMan said. "Interesting. Death comes for us all eventually," the woman replied. "Just know that as you kill me, you're not doing it because it's your decision." And OmniMan did indeed kill them, but he didn't understand what she'd meant. The day of carnage was one for the history books. The SCP Foundation threw everything they had into the fight: elite forces, cutting-edge technology, and their most impenetrable defenses. But it wasn't enough. OmniMan tore through them all, leaving nothing but devastation in his wake. 12 of the 13 members of the O5 Council were dead. All that remained was the oldest and most mysterious of them all, O51. And while OmniMan had to hunt the others down, this one sent him a psychic communique rolling out the welcome wagon. "I'm in sub-Saharan Africa, Nolan. I just sent you the coordinates. Meet me." It didn't take the vindictive former superhero more than 5 minutes to reach his destination. It seemed like an anonymous piece of desert, until a punch to the ground shattered the bomb-proof casing of a subterranean bunker. OmniMan floated down into the darkness below, searching for the last target, the one that would truly bring the greatest threat to his mission on Earth, the SCP Foundation, to its knees. "There's no point in hiding," he said. "You're only delaying the inevitable." A voice from the darkness rang out saying, "Don't you think it was too easy finding all of us? The most secretive organization in the multiverse, and a breadcrumb trail led you to each and every one of us." OmniMan didn't have to entertain this nonsense. He had his mission, and there was no way in this universe or any other that he would trip at this hurdle. He descended deeper into the bunker, which took on the strange quality of a darkened house of mirrors, preserved by some kind of strange, anomalous illusion. But this would not stop him. It would only slow him down. His hunt continued into the strange bowels of the bunker, its many twisting and impossible hallways. That's when he heard the voice again. "You're a soldier, Nolan. You should be used to your thoughts not being your own." With his enhanced hearing, he zeroed in on the direction of the voice and flew in that direction at high speeds, smashing through wall after wall of solid concrete in the way. And yet somehow, there was no target on the other side, just more strange, twisted hallways. "You really think these stupid little tricks will stop me?" he said. "Stop you? Nolan, I've been helping you the whole time," the disembodied voice said. "Once a sentry, I think it's valuable to have a personnel change. The infighting among the council can make it tricky to get anything done. In these instances, it's valuable to bring in an outside element to clean house." Nolan refused to listen. Clearly, this was just more idiotic human mind games. He'd find this worthless creature and crush it like the insect it is. Suddenly, a floodlight turned on, bathing OmniMan in stark white light. His eyes quickly adjusted to the glare, and he saw a very old man standing in the darkness, wrapped in rags, with cold, cruel eyes. This was O51. "Well, you wanted to see me, here I..." Before he could even finish the sentence, OmniMan swooped in, but something stopped him in his tracks. It was as though an invisible hand, one of impossible strength, was holding him in place. He looked back and saw that some arcane object had been pinned into his shadow. It was SCP-272, an old iron nail, capable of rooting anyone in place if their shadow is pierced. As much as OmniMan struggled, he couldn't move. His incredible strength was useless. He was at the mercy of the strange old man, who pulled a device with a large red trigger on it out of his robes. "I commissioned a project that was controversial among my contemporaries," O51 said. "The children. 9 psychic youngsters of exceptional power harnessed like batteries to get the full benefit of their capabilities. It was the only way we could turn the tables on a certain group of reality warpers far more destructive than even yourself, Nolan." OmniMan strained, his body trembling under the pressure as veins bulged and tendons in his neck tightened. "I'm gonna rip you apart atom by atom!" the Viltrumite yelled. "Funny," said O51. "I was just thinking about doing the same to you. I could have done this at any point, by the way. Just thought you should know." O51 squeezed the trigger on his device. In a distant, undisclosed zone under a mile of concrete, the children activated. Their combined psychic force attacked Nolan on a quantum level, manipulating and contorting the subatomic particles that made up his smallest components. He made one more cry of rage, and then he was gone, leaving only an empty space where he used to be. O51, alone again, smiled. Nolan had been such a wonderful help in his plans to restructure. Tomorrow, promoting the new members begins. Now check out SCP Foundation contains One Punch Man, Saitama's Big Surprise, and Rick and Morty More Powerful Than SCP Foundation, Mad Scientist Battle, for more.